No, I'll take him. I'll take all of you. I'll feast on your flesh as I feed on your fear. Or you'll just leave us be. I will take him, only him. I will have my long rest, and you will all live to grow and thrive and lead happy lives until old age takes you back to the weeds. Here's your look, guys, at the new NECA toys. This is it, Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Seven young outcasts band together to battle an ancient, shape-shifting evil that emerges every 27 years to prey on their town's children. We're going to go ahead and get this measured off. It would be a safe assumption to say that Pennywise the Clown is likely the same height, and don't worry, we'll do some comparisons in a second, as all the other Pennywises that we've looked at. Would it be Pennywises for the plural? I guess it still would be Pennywise. As the figures are all the same, the head swaps and the changing of the arms are but the only thing that has varied from figure to figure. This one more specifically because it does have the claw arms. So a safe assumption would be, yes, in fact, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Yes, in fact, this is the exact same Pennywise, body-wise at least, as all the others. 7.8 inches actually is the height of this new dancing Pennywise, which in centimeters works out to be 19.9, about 20 centimeters tall. Just in case you don't believe me, shame on you, shame on you. We'll bring in some of the other Pennywise clown figures that we've had a look at. This happens to be the original. I'm not bringing in the GameStop exclusive, because really there isn't much change to that. Just a slight variation to the head sculpt, and of course a lot more bloodied. And then the other notable change is the one that came from the Well House, the Well House release of Pennywise. Still, I would think one of my probably the favorite figure of the various different Pennywises that we've gotten over the time. Now again, the beauty of all of these is that you can mix and match them, you can swap them out. I kind of like the fact that if you'll really look at collectively all three of them, the one that has the dancing clown, that is, the one with the claw crab arms, does have a slightly darker coloring. Of course, they're battling it down in the depths of the sewer system. And of course, with that, you're going to be having a slightly darker looking Pennywise as a result of it. But again, like all three of these look fantastic. It's just a matter, again, of what you want to do with these figures. As really ideally, you can just mix and match the component pieces to change it to whatever Pennywise look you want to have in your collection. Consistent trend would obviously state as well that with the NECA Pennywise figure releases, the beauty of them is the mix and match capabilities. The fact that you could pull things off, change it out, change heads out, for example, to get the desired look that you want. The arguing question then I pose to myself is, which desired look do I want to have for Pennywise? Ultimately resulting in me tossing around the idea I'm very well getting at least another two, maybe another one of these, so I can just display it in the various different looks. Because this one specifically, kind of like the Well House, has some really neat looking swappable options. And we'll talk about those right now. As you see, he currently is sporting his crab legs. A really neat scene in which, of course, he's clawing his way, crawling his way across the ground and trying to stab with his these giant crab legs. They're really, really neat. If, however, you don't want to go this route, I don't know, maybe, you do have the option of swappable forearms, and I'll show you that in a second. Within the forearms are also closed fists. You can also change those out as well. But this kind of goes back to the idea that if you want to change Pennywise to something different, some strong contenders down here, by the way, you do have these swappable forearms as something that you can make use of. The other thing that also comes included with the figure is a bunch of grabbing hands. Really great for the charred arm head. We'll show you that in a second. That you can then swap these out with the closed fists that are in the forearms. And again, I'll show you all that in a second. Then we get to like the various head sculpts. This is kind of where things get really interesting. Of course, the head sculpt that we will look at on the socket section of his neck, we'll look at that in a second, but let me just show you also some of the various different head options that are also included with this release. For example, you get the extremely creepy looking flute lady head sculpt, which looks just as scary as it did in the film. It's great that NECA Toys would include this as just a standalone option. However, as great as the head sculpt looks, I would have loved, and maybe for future releases, NECA could entertain the idea of giving us a full-out flute lady. I mean, with the various different, Pan's Labyrinth figures that we've gotten of the various different characters, maybe they could branch off from the standalone sort of go-to right now has been for Pennywise, but maybe I hope we can expand out to get other additional characters in the film. Maybe not necessarily the Losers Club. I mean, the various likenesses may be a hard thing to get, but at the very least, for a character that's created in the film, the Flute Lady would be a fantastic release, something to include along with the various different Pennywises that we have had up to this point. Look at the discolored teeth. Love the fact that they're these little tiny slivers of teeth, and they are very boldly outlined here in black. The misshapen, misaligned Shannon Doherty eyes. Oh, come on, that joke's never gonna... that joke... I don't think the joke ever gets old, but Shannon Doherty has lopsided eyes. You can look it up for yourself. Kind of a spiritual ghoul of Shannon Doherty. Okay, I'll stop with the Shannon Doherty jokes. Really, again, a neat-looking head sculpt. Something, again, you can change out. I'll show you that in a second. Also going to come included with the figure is the charred arm head sculpt. This is something that if I had a checklist of head sculpts I wanted right from day one, when we got the very first Pennywise, this would have been right up there, along with that big devilish smile that we ultimately did get with the Well House release. Now, what's really neat about this is I just love the head sculpt, first and foremost, that it does look like there's even hands prying open the mouth, wanting to escape out. And then each of the individual arms are just these charred. They even have articulation to them, which is pretty crazy. You can see right there, there's a hinge that you can actually bring these arms out. Not by much, granted. They don't give you a whole lot of wiggle room to work with, but you do have some posability that you can, see, there you go right there. You can manipulate those hands slightly. Just like that. There you go. Just a, look at that. Isn't that phenomenal? Just the charred looking hands reaching out from Pennywise. A very, very strong contender for how I'm going to likely display the figure. Probably will ultimately just take the claw arms off, the crab arms off, and I'll maybe revert to something like this. The great thing about it, too, is even if you do decide and you have picked up the previous Pennywises, I go there I go again, pluralizing the character, you could really just use this head sculpt for any one of the other figures that you already have in your collection. You don't have to start dismantling necessarily this figure simply because you want to have this look for it. You could just do it for something else. I really also like that head sculpt right there. I might even find myself taking that head sculpt off and replacing it with the original Pennywise. I just really love that head sculpt. We'll talk about that. Don't worry, we'll talk about that in a second. But there is the one head sculpt, I guess the second head sculpt to come included with the figure. And then we also have this one. Boy, oh boy, that is a neat looking head sculpt. Looking at it always kind of reminded me of the sandworms from Beetlejuice, just the way that they've exaggerated the open mouth and the several rows of teeth inside. A scene also that we see in the film, and this one, like in the film, does have a light up option. I mean, in the film it's special effects. Here it's actually just a battery compartment. Let me just show you how the battery compartment works. I'm going to go ahead and just pry this off. Your battery compartment is right in there. I haven't opened this up, but I'm assuming that's probably like LR44 button cell batteries. Don't quote me on that. And there's a little button switch right there. When you do get this out and you do try pressing the button first and foremost, you'll probably find that the light up option doesn't work. It does involve you taking this off and taking off the little blocking plastic piece that battery mechanisms like battery light up options generally tend to have. There's like a little plastic strip in there. Take that plastic strip off. Now all of a sudden you've got a full flow of power going from those button cell batteries to whatever it is needs to be lit up. Now, unfortunately, I guess they did this so that you would know where you could take this off. I mean, looking at it, it does have a slightly different shade to it than all the hair that's around it. Likely, again, they probably just did that so that you know where you have to take this off. Because I don't think there are no instructions with the figure. You kind of have to just wing it and know this is a door, I'm going to open this, buttons are in here. Or really, you have the benefit of videos like this. You go ahead and press the button right here on the back, and that lights up, not to project that right in front of your eyes. I'm so sorry for that. And you can have the light up option that he has in the film. Really, really cool. I like that. Quite bright too. And it actually, you can see there, it's peeking its way through the hole that's located on the bottom, and that's where it's going to attach, of course, to his neck. Just again, great looking detail there. All the familiar cracks are present there on this head sculpt, as well as the one that has a little bit less, a little smaller, but still are also there on the charred hand head. So there's a couple of different options there for you. But we'll do some pulling and swapping around in a second. Okay, let's have a look at Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Really, though, for its namesake and the way that the packaging has advertised it as such, you could also have gotten away with calling it Crab Arms Pennywise. Because, of course, dancing clown, he's not really dancing with these crab arms at that moment, but it's neat the fact that we finally get ourselves Crab Arms Pennywise. It does lead, unfortunately, to one problem with the figure, is that I have immediately getting this out of packaging slightly loose arms. Being the way that the arms are sticking out and continuing to add strain to the forearm section, you can probably see what I'm about to say, or guess what I'm about to say. The arms do get loose especially like this arm right here has gotten a little bit on the loose side. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it has to be, for the fact that you've got something sticking out all the time, continuing to pulling down on the joint of the figure. It's going to develop very quickly, I think, a little bit of looseness that you may find the arms starting to droop over time. I guess what you could also do too is get yourself like little clear stands and just kind of prop these up, which I might actually find myself just doing, just to kind of pull back a little bit of that stress in those joints, help those joints out wherever I can possibly do that. The coloring is really quite good on these. They're still making use of the same gray plastic, but as you can see, they've added a wash of red over top of that. And you can see like all those individual spikes are just sticking and popping out. Literally and figuratively. Just a really great looking appliance to be added to this figure. Other than, again, like the option of swapping these out, you're just going to wiggle these arms completely off. And you're just going to wiggle this one right off as well. You could pull it, but I always find it's easier with figures like this just to kind of wiggle them off. They'll come off, don't worry. You don't have to be overly aggressive with them. I just also show you, too, that the arms do have their own hinges. There's a hinge on each of I guess you would consider that to be the knuckle joint. They twist slightly, but just due to the nature of way that the sculpt is kind of housing around the smaller section here, it doesn't allow for the arms to move too much. But there are the crab arms, just a really neat looking addition. We can go ahead and put those to the side. Now all of a sudden we've got ourselves Pennywise without arms. I guess we should probably rectify that, shouldn't we? So we're going to go ahead and take the forearms that we discussed at the beginning of this review. Don't worry, I didn't forget about them. And we are just going to wiggle those in place. Just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There we go. There's one arm. And we can do, pardon my hand for covering the screen here, just go ahead and wiggle the second arm on. Now, I've done this a couple of times already, and I notice if you don't twist them on well enough, sometimes when you are moving the arms, the forearms do pop off. Safe to say, I think I got them all firmly planted. And now you basically have like a regular Pennywise the Clown. There's not really too much that's been changed to this. Again, we'll just bring in, we'll bring in the original one so you guys can see it side by side. Personally, I kind of like the darker kind of undertones of the additional black wash that they've added to it. Like the ruffles and the sections, like the detailing to his clown outfit just seem to pop a little bit more, especially with the collar. It seems actually each subsequent release that NECA Toys releases, even if it's making use of the exact same mold, I mean, you're literally looking at the exact same mold side to side. you can see like how it just improves itself just that ever bit slight more. I mean, once you add a little bit of that darker coloring to it, boy oh boy, do those details ever pop. Okay, we'll move that one to the side. We've already looked at that one. We've already looked at that one. Having a look at the head sculpt, the defaulted head sculpt, short of these actually being able to light up, which is something they could also have done for this particular figure, this kind of has the light up options, kind of light up eyes in the film. Again, it's another distinct look for Pennywise, one of which we really haven't seen before, certainly not done to this level. It's a really neat looking head sculpt, very terrifying head sculpt. And while it's not my favorite, the Well House version with the big devilish smile will be still probably my all-time favorite of the various looks that NECA has been able to accomplish, pull off, and produce in plastic form. Again, that's just a really neat looking head sculpt. We'll go ahead and take the head off. And while we do that, of course, the collar will roll off because it's still something. I don't really know why this has to always be something that has to be removable. I mean, if the figure itself has to always keep that on, I think even when it's the flute lady head, I think the collar is still fully in place. I might even just find myself gluing that in place. I just find it pops off. I guess it only really pops off when you take the head sculpt off, so providing you don't take the heads off, you shouldn't have a problem. We're going to go ahead and just put the flute lady head sculpt on there just for a second so you guys can see it. One thing I have noticed, though, there's the flute lady head sculpt. I interrupted my own train of thought. What I was going to say, though, is I've noticed with my original Pennywise, the way that the peg system works, we just unpeg this off quite easily, actually. You'll see that's basically just a cylinder, and then it's just basically a hole. And the cylinder fits into the hole, and that's preschool education right there. Shapes fitting into shapes. The one thing I will say, though, is repeated pulling the head off, replacing the head, pulling it off. I'm not going to continue to do that, but you get what I'm saying. I've noticed that the original Pennywise has developed a wider hole, that the head sculpt doesn't fit on there as well as it used to, which I guess is obvious. I mean, if you're putting a peg into that hole and forcing that frequently, that hole is probably going to widen to the point where the head just doesn't sit in place as well. But there's the flute lady head sculpt. Let's go ahead and put the charred arms. I don't know if this one actually has a name. It's the head with the arms. It's one of the coolest head sculpts, I think, in the whole movie. Shy of course, that big smile, the Well House smile. There is the charred hands, just looking fantastic. You can see even how the eyes have rolled back inside the head, and that you only see just these little slivers of Pennywise's white eyes. Just again, phenomenal looking head sculpt. And then last, but certainly not least, as we are going to run the gambit through all of these, we have also the light up option. Light up option is just as easy to put on as all the others. And there you have the light up. Wait, hold on a second. You have the light up option there as well. So a couple of different variations, a couple of different methods and ways that you can display the figure. Go ahead and just unpeg that. Be always sure to turn the battery power off. Of course, you don't want to drain the batteries. Something else I also do for all the figures that I do have look at on this channel. Frequently, if I find myself thinking, okay, I'm not going to probably display these anytime soon, maybe I'll just put them away, and then I kind of go through rotations. I know we're kind of looking at a headless Pennywise right now. I go through rotations where periodically I might be like, okay, I might put out this week the Well House Pennywise, and maybe the other Pennywise go away because I just don't have space to put every single figure out all the time. Anytime that I do put figures back that do have batteries, just a little tip of the trade, I do take the batteries out just so that they don't leak inside. The last thing you would want or not want is the fact that the batteries no longer work because the button cell batteries have leaked. Just a little. It's not really a tool of the. It's not a trick of the trade or anything like that. It's just that's just what I do. I guess it's common knowledge, but go ahead and put on the regular head sculpt, and let's go through Pennywise's various. I know, again, I just added S on the end of that. Let's look at his various different articulation points. Now, his head rotates, in theory, all the way around. It gets a little, of course, hung up around the fact that it has to rotate around the collar. It hinges up and down. It also rocks back and forth. There you go. The shoulders hinge outward, and you can also rotate those all the way around. He has a swivel, basically where the cuff of the poofed shoulder actually is, so that rotates. And then also rotates here where the elbow, I guess the elbow starts, even though technically it's a double hinge on the elbow. There's one there, and there's one right there. It also swivels at the forearm. So really, I mean, technically, you got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 just on the arms alone. This also swivels just the way it's been attached and assembled, and then you also have a swivel and hinge on the hands. So actually a fair bit when you think about it, only utilizing this space here, just this amount. The upper torso has a ball joint. The skirt, if you want to call it a skirt, I wouldn't necessarily say it right to Pennywise's face, does kind of impede a little bit of the articulation, so you can move the legs forward and back. You can split them out. You can swivel them up at the top there. You have a double hinge on the knee. Swivel at the lower half, basically where the calf starts on the leg. And then you also have a hinge back and forth on the foot, and it also rocks back and forth. Now, the thing is, though, I'm trying to think if it was I think it was the GameStop version. I tried to actually do in final looks the dancing portion of Pennywise the Clown. It's not something that's easily something that you can pull off, providing, I guess, that you want to make use of a display stand. It's just really hard to balance. You know, when it's all said and done, it's really hard to kind of balance everything and put everything together. Yeah, so if you wanted to see the dancing clown, you can check out the GameStop review that I did. And I think in final looks, I put that particular figure in that look. I don't know, maybe I'll do it in final looks here. The thing about it, though, the hardest part when it comes to even final looks, or even just figures like this in general, the hardest thing is ever deciding which head sculpt and which look of the various different options that NECA provide to you, which one you want to feel fits the figure the best for your display at that current time. Unfortunately, when it comes to dancing Pennywise the Dancing Clown, you have so many various different options, whether it be the crab arms, of course the hand head, the charred armed head, even like strong contenders, like for example like the Flute Lady, because I have so many various Pennywise. This now makes the 4th release from NECA Toys. There's so many different figures out there and so many different possibilities, but still yet you don't feel like you can put them all out with all of these looks. It may even entertain the idea, like I said, of picking up another one of these, one of which I'll probably display with the crab arms, and I think the other one I might actually end up displaying, in all honesty, with the charred arm head, just because I think that is so cool. Well, by the time this review was finished, I was posed with a question: which way did I want to display Pennywise for final looks? Not knowing and being indecisive on a regular basis, I decided to take to the streets and posed a poll question to all the people I met. All 5 people, it was a very extensive poll, all said that I should probably go with the charred arm head. I agreed, so in final looks we decided to go with this look. Yes, we really started the review with the crab arms, so I thought, we mix it up a little bit here in final looks. Pennywise the Dancing Clown is enough of a contender for a new pickup because it has enough of swappable pieces that make it very different from the other Pennywises. Of all the various Pennywise figures that I've picked up, probably the one that you could go and pass on now, having that we already now got the arm with the accessory kit, is the GameStop exclusive, which is somewhat funny because it was really one of those sets that a lot of people were clamoring to get and going online to spend additional dollars to get this and add it to their collection, when ultimately you really didn't need to get it after all. See, that's bitter irony for you. But no, there's enough strong enough interchangeable pieces for this Pennywise to make it feel unique and different. Not the fact that we just simply get a brand new figure with the exact same mold that we had gotten before. The hardest part of all these figures, and even reviewing them, always boils down to which way do I want to display the figure at the very beginning and at the very end of this review. When it's all said and done, I think this figure is probably going to be displayed like you're currently seeing it right now. I just love those arms sticking out of Pennywise's mouth so much, that's probably going to be how I'm going to display the figure for at least right now, until I change my mind later. The other head sculpt, the defaulted head sculpt, I guess if you want to look at it as the defaulted head sculpt, is probably going to be something I'm going to swap out to the original Pennywise. One of the beauties of picking up these various different figures, even though it's using the same mold, it's not to say that you can't take those heads, those arms, and other things that come with those figures and change it out with the one that you previously got. I mean, nobody's going to really say, hey, wait a minute, that didn't come with the initial figure. You could say, you know what, it's my collection. I can do with it whatever I want. If you want to do this, do with it whatever you want, and you haven't had a chance to pick up this figure, I would actually recommend it. I know we're kind of at that point now where we've already gotten so many different Pennywise figures, and again, they're not really that much different other than a different head sculpt, and at least in this case, you get yourself the crab arms. But again, I think all the figures are worth picking up. Still, the favorites for me are the Dancing Clown Pennywise, which we are looking at in this review, and the Wellhouse Pennywise. Those are my top 2 favorite of the 4 figures that we've gotten up to this point. Just an FYI, to NECA Toys, though, if they are still looking to approach the It franchise, especially with the fact that we are getting Chapter 2 very, very soon, I hope we can also see ourselves maybe down the road getting ourselves a Flute Lady, maybe even as a retro cloth version. But Pennywise looks good with the head sculpt, but that Flute Lady just looks so creepy in the film. I would love to see a Flute Lady just on its own as well. Either way, if you guys are interested in picking up the Pennywise the Dancing Clown for yourself, some good news is it's available right now at comic book stores and retail stores if your retail stores do sell NECA figures. My Walmarts really don't. They kind of stink for that, but my Toys R Us luckily does stock the NECA toys. So if you can't find it at your local retail stores, you can check out Toys R Us, or comic book stores are always your best bet to find all the new releases from NECA Toys. If you guys haven't had a chance and you are new to this channel or longtime viewers and maybe you just never got around to doing it, hit the subscribe button that's located just below this video and turn on your bell notifications. Apparently just hitting subscribe isn't enough. Why would it be? That you also have to turn on your bell notifications to full strength, full notifications, so when new videos are coming to this channel, you'll never miss out. And hey, speaking of things that you may have potentially missed out on, if you feel like in the back of your mind something is telling you you may have missed out on some of this guy's videos, you can always swing on over to the homepage and scroll down the section of videos and see if there's anything you may have missed. The frequency, the sheer frequency level of how many videos I post on a regular basis, your best bet is check the homepage from time to time and just kind of see if there's anything you may have missed along the way. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think down below of Pennywise the Dancing Clown, whether you managed to pick this up for yourself or just based on this review and this review alone. And I always like reading your comments down below. Stay tuned because more videos will be coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.